Drug Dealers Anonymous.
There have been startling accusations that the United States government itself may have actually helped bring drugs into this country.
And in Los Angeles, a drug dealer known as Freeway Ricky Ross was in the middle of it.
If they look back and say Rick Ross was evil in the 80s, couldn't argue. If they say he caused havoc all over South Central and a lot of other states in this country, I couldn't argue.
Rick Ross, the biggest black American drug dealer in American history. The man a lot of men want to be.
I'm the boss. 745, white on white, that's Rick Ross.
You know, Rick Ross, man, we want to know where you get that name from, man, and are you aware that it's, you know, it's a big drug dealer from out here? Where did you get the name from?
Most definitely. I got on the name like 10 years ago when it wasn't about that. It was about what I was going to turn it into. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it is. Shout out to dude, whatever he doing, but I don't know him.
What's your relationship with the drug trafficker Rick Ross, man? Or is there a relationship? Have you got a chance to meet him when the first album came out?
He wrote me like a letter or two, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, on the first album. So,
no, that's pretty much it. No talking.
They was talking about doing some movies and you know, that he gonna be doing this thing whenever he jump out, and I told him whatever they needed from me, it's all good.
Oh, okay, so it's all love for the most part.
They do soundtracks, anything, I got them, that's on the house.
I'm the biggest boss that you seen thus far.
Going and he the boss and all that stuff. You ain't no boss. No boss take no man's name. You know, a boss make his own name.
Ricky Donnell Ross, also known as Freeway Rick Ross, the real Rick Ross, was born on January 26, 1960 in Tyler, Texas. When Rick Ross was 3, his mother packed up and moved him to South Central LA. Ross attended school at Susan Miller Dorsey High School in Los Angeles. He played for the tennis team, but was unable to get a college tennis scholarship because he was illiterate. After not receiving a scholarship, he began spending time with an upholstery teacher at a LA community college, who revealed to him that he dealt cocaine and offered Ross a small amount to sell. Ross used his profits to purchase more cocaine to sell. Expanding his small operation, Ross eventually began to ask for quantities to sell that exceeded what the teacher was willing to provide, so he turned to find a dealer.
I had this teacher that I used to hang out with, you know, we go play tennis and, you know, kick it, Mr. Fisher. He asked me, "What you been doing, man?" I'm like, "Oh, you know, man, run across this cocaine." He said, "Yeah, I got some hookups for you. I'm gonna introduce you to some people." These are all Nicaraguans now. I'm in the Nicaraguan circle now.
The teacher referred Ross to his supplier, Ivan Arguelles, who offered to keep Ross supplied. Ivan was able to provide large quantities at a better price, and Ross quickly went from dealing in grams of cocaine to dealing ounces. 8 months after becoming Ross' supplier, Ivan was shot in the spine, which forced him out of the cocaine business. His brother-in-law, Henry Corrales, took over the business, who introduced Ross to Danilo Blandon.
While I was in LA visiting my friend Ivan, called to my attention that he had a visitor, and I was introduced to Rick at that particular time. He had an excellent clientele, and he was an excellent distributor. He was telling me at the beginning that he started with very simple, I think he was some kind of an ounce or something like that, and then came out to a position where kilos were involved in a particular day. You know, few people could keep up with Rick.
You know, I'm on a fast track. You know, I ain't getting high, I ain't smoking. I just kept moving up the ladder. Until I got to Blandon. I knew he was the man. Because, you know, like when we first would do the deal, we would do a deal and then he would be parked, you know, down the streets. We would be on the other side of the street and, you know, he would, you know, give us the wave. "Hey, buddy," you know, like that there, everything's good. Danilo took me to an apartment and he said, "Well, this is what we're gonna be doing the business at," you know, and told me all the prices and everything. Well, the price went down. I think the price went down substantially that day, you know. Maybe increased me like where I could make another 20,000, 30,000 a day, just just on that.
Before him, we were just average street hustlers. When Danilo hit the scene, when we met that fucking guy, he basically laced us. He put our boots on, money count machine, weapons, low profile, the whole nine. We just worked our way up to the top of the food chain.
Henry Corrales lost his appetite for the cocaine business and retired. At this point, Ross became a direct customer of Blandon. Ross began distributing cocaine at $10,000 per kilo, less than the average street price, selling the drugs to the Bloods and Crips.
The gangs got into the business because they was just like me. You know what I'm saying? They was looking for a way out of the ghetto, out of poverty as well. And I was more than obliged to let them in.
Los Angeles, home to more than 200 black street gangs, battling to corner an expanding, highly profitable drug market. Cheap, potent rock cocaine.
What's happening, fella?
Also waging war in the streets of LA County, a special force of 300 cops trying to contain more than 60,000 gang members.
By 1982, Ross received his nickname, Freeway Ricky, and claimed to have sold up to $3 million worth of cocaine per day, purchasing 1,000 pounds of cocaine a week. Ross initially invested most of his profits in houses and businesses. He also invested a portion of his money in Anita Baker's first album.
Otis started talking to me about this girl that he was going to produce. And he needed the money to produce her. He didn't even have the money to send for her. I gave him the money to send her ticket from Detroit to come out here. And we got an apartment up in Hollywood Hills and just started from there.
Anita Baker.
I never got into the business though. You know, I just gave him the money. Here's the money. So
did you get a return on your investment?
No. She jumped the label.
Okay.
She jumped the label, went to I forgot the name of the label. I paid for the attorney to sue her.
With thousands of employees, Ross operated drug sales not only in Los Angeles, but in places across the country, including St. Louis, New Orleans, Texas, Kansas City, Oklahoma, Indiana, Cincinnati, North Carolina, South Carolina, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Seattle. He also stated that his lucrative sales came from the Ohio area. In 1996, Ross was sentenced to life imprisonment under the 3 strikes law after being convicted for purchasing more than 100 kilograms of cocaine from a federal agent in a sting operation. The person who set him up was his supplier, Danilo Blandon.
The easiest dope deal I ever did, send me to prison. Because my partner, he called me, I ain't selling dope no more. I quit. My partner called me, he said, look, man, I'm stuck. I need your help.
When Blandon got out, he knew only one thing, that pager number, and that was me. Blandon wanted to know where Rick was. He wanted to talk to him, you know, to see how he was doing, you know, and I was cool with that. I was cool because, you know, this man took care of him. They took care of each other. And so I gave him Rick's mother's number to call Rick. Rick was there. It was my fault that Blandon got to Rick.
I picked the phone up. I'm like, oh man, you know, I don't know nobody, man. Whoa, man, it ain't like that. It ain't like that. So boom, I hang the phone up. Then me and Chico start talking.
Man, what Blandon, you know, what he want? He was telling me what Blandon was. I'm like, man. And he's like, you got the money? I said, yeah, I got the money. You know, like, you know, what we gonna do? Like, you wanna do something? Like, well, if you give me this amount of money, I'll do this for you. And that's how the whole conversation opened about buying 100 kilos.
I'm talking about he gonna give it to me for 10,000 a kilo. So she goes, what, 10,000 a kilo? Like, damn, man, that's a hell of a price, you know. So we talking about it.
That went on for months, this conversation. Like, I don't know, Blandon keep calling. Rick like, Cheek, he wants us to come down there. You want to go down there? Do you want to meet him?
We set up a deal and, you know, they had price points that they knew would trigger me. And they had the right person to do it.
We put up at a Denny's. So I'm thinking we're gonna get the things right there.
Danilo's trying to get his money. Right, give me the money, give me the money.
I'm telling Rick, you sure? I said, man, he gonna rob us. This is gonna rob. He gonna just take the money.
So I'm like, hold up, Chico, man. Don't give him your money, man, until you see the dope. And I told him right in front of Danilo.
I questioned Rick. I said, man, are you sure, man? That's my last thing to Rick. Are you sure? And he's like, nah, Cheeky, cool. He took it, $300,000 in a paper bag.
Chico gave him the money and boom.
I see the guys putting their jackets on, like, that's on FBI. Like, what the fuck?
Flying and I look in my rearview mirror, there's police chasing me. Then I look up when I pass by and Danilo is sitting on the side. He's like laughing at us, you know, like, and he was like sickening, man. So, you know, I'm driving, I'm like thinking that my life is over, man. Like I want to be dead. You know, I done promised my kids, you know, I ain't getting back involved with drugs, you know, and I'm gonna be around for them. You know, I done got back involved, you know, I done lied to them.
He learned how to read at the age of 28. When he was in prison, he spent most of his time behind bars studying the law. He eventually discovered a loophole that will lead to his release. Rick Ross' case was brought to a federal court of appeals, which found that the three-strike law had been wrongfully applied and reduced his sentence to 20 years. He was released from prison on September 29th, 2009.
Totally illiterate. While I was in prison, taught myself how to read and write. Got so good at the law that I eventually won my own case. I was so good when I walked into the courtroom that I felt I was smarter than my lawyer, my prosecutor, and the judge. After I won my case, I started doing a lot of soul searching, trying to figure out how I got in the place that I was at, and what skills did it take for me to make $1 million every day and some days $3 million with only $125. At first I thought it wasn't no big deal. You know, you ain't nothing but a drug dealer. You know, anybody can sell drugs and make money, make $3 million if they wanted to. But after I got to know other guys in there who hadn't did that, then I found out there was some skills that I had put behind it and some things that I had learned along the way, and other people didn't know. So once I did that and I figured out what the skills was, I said, well, are these skills transferable? Can you use these same skills to do another business? And I found out that you could, because I had been using the same skills that I used to sell drugs, where I use those same skills to do law, and I use those same skills to teach me how to read. So before I left prison, I read over 300 books. I went from being totally illiterate to highly illiterate.
Over 100 miles away, William Leonard Roberts will be born on January 28, 1976 in Clarksdale, Mississippi, but was raised in Carroll City, Florida. After graduating from Miami Carroll City Senior High School, he attended the historical Black College, Albany State University, on the football scholarships. Roberts worked as a correctional officer for 18 months from December 1995 until June 1997.
I got a scholarship to Albany State College. I was the only one to leave Miami. I went to Albany State. And this was the first time I really went out of town, and the first time in really few years that my big homies in my community, you know, they weren't around me. When I came up, where I came up from, I was embraced. You know, I played football. I was cool. They dressed me up, kept money in my pocket. This is the first time I'm out of, you know, I couldn't put that burden on my mom. So I'm out of town. I ain't got much. I'm really starting to have the wrong ideas. I'm finna bring the wrong energy to the campus. I told myself, before you do this and you make a big mistake, just go back and follow your heart. Write your music. You know, I know, you know, football in your heart. I'm a dude that felt I'm the same boss mentality. I'm going to the league. I'm going to the league. I'm going to play for 2 seasons, turn up, and I'm going to go to the league. And once I realized, you know, that my heart wasn't there no more, I came back home and just focused on the music.
In his early years at Suave House Records, Roberts initially made his debut under the name Teflon the Don. He made his recording debut on the song Ain't Ish to Discuss on Eric Sermon's Lone album.
This many years before I got on, I used to write raps for other people at this time. He was doing the chorus. I was actually in Eric Sermon's studio.
It ain't shit to discuss. I ain't moving the units. I'm shipping the dust. I move in your unit, empty a clip in your nuts.
In the mid-2000s, he changed his name to Rick Ross. He derived his stage name from the former drug kingpin, Freeway Rick Ross, to whom he has no connection to. He will take more than the kingpin's name. He took his likeness by growing his beard out, and he also took his drug dealing life stories.
He never asked me could he use my name. He never reached out. Now it's a lot of kids out here want to be Rick Ross. When they see this guy running around on TV with Maybachs and big gold chains and all these fly girls and saying that he got this from selling drugs, he lying.
Before the Kingpin, Freeway Rick Ross would get released from prison. The rapper Rick Ross would release 3 albums. Port of Miami was released in August 2006. Trilla was released in March 2008. And Deeper Than Rap, which was released in April 2009.
I'm a don, I'm a boss, I'm a prophet, I'm a G, I'm a CEO, which means that I profit off of me. Yeah.
By this time, the rapper Rick Ross was making a name for himself and mostly rapping about how he was a big-time drug dealer.
No Pablo, Noriega, the real Noriega, he owe me 100 favors.
Cap.
Not sure how you can go from being a correctional officer to being one of the biggest drug dealers in Miami. Being a rapper comes with beef, and in his case, 50 Cent. 50 came from the streets, and he did not like the rapper Rick Ross' previous employment.
This guy's the biggest fraud we've seen thus far. Like if you go from, the guy is a correctional officer, and he writes from the perspective of the biggest drug dealer in Miami. Now we know Miami is a port when it comes through there, and we know how people like the way they love Scarface. His infatuation with that got him. He done created this new character. Actually, the guy name that he took, Rick Ross, Freeway Rick, he gets out next month. 18 years, you know he's gonna be knocking on his door like,
take my name, motherfucker.
Yeah. And you're a correctional officer and you decide to stop working corrections in order to go rap as if you're the biggest drug dealer in Miami.
Despite being a correctional officer, he still found success in the rap game and worked with some of the biggest stars in the game like Drake, Jay-Z, and Diddy, who signed him to Ciroc Entertainment under a management deal.
Ross was and is a pioneer. When you think of mixtapes were throwaways. Mixtapes were warm-ups before Rick Ross put out his mixtapes. His mixtapes were albums. His mixtapes would drive the labels crazy. I had to have a conversation, a fight with him when I was managing him for like 2 weeks. And then I realized we was friends and I wasn't gonna get a commission, so I kept managing him because I love him and kept consulting him and all that.
In June 2010, Freeway Ricky Ross sued the rapper Rick Ross for $10 million for using his name, filing a copyright infringement lawsuit in a California federal court. Jay-Z testified in the lawsuit as he was the CEO of Def Jam when the rapper Rick Ross was signed. Also, Freeway Ricky Ross threatened to block the release of the rapper Rick Ross album, Teflon Don. The lawsuit was thrown out of court on July 3rd, 2010, and the album Teflon Don was released as scheduled on July 20th, 2010.
About how he acquired the name Rick Ross.
And I want to see that if he lied to me in front of me. So it's going to be interesting for me today, too.
What is the definition of a commercial CD to you?
Something that's being sold retail.
wouldn't shake my hand. He never acknowledged that I was in the room. And I think in the end that, you know, everybody's gonna find out that he really did take my name and that he's really a fraud.
A federal judge ruled that the case should be refiled in California State Court because it fell under California state law. Freeway Ricky Ross refiled the case with the state of California in 2011. On December 30th, 2013, the court ruled in favor of the rapper Rick Ross, allowing him to keep his name based on the First Amendment ruling.
People didn't know about that particular case because I never really got into details, and I leave that up to them talkative people. Once you bring the people into it and the officials, let them handle it now, because that's what you is and that's what you do best. But a lot of people they didn't understand the case was about, you know, me being sued, you know, for the name Rick Ross, so on and so forth. It wasn't just the name, because he couldn't have just sued me for the name. It's like if somebody said they was an artist, being your name, you can't sue him. But he said, you know, my music storylines and concepts came from his,
I never knew that part.
Yeah, Port of Miami, and that came from him having a connection to Port of Miami, and Deeper Than Rap was something that he said, and then you know, that type of, you know, and I just never really got into it. I just since you know they went the route of bringing the people in,
so you kept it with the people,
and I didn't discuss that. That's how we was raised, and that's what it was. But it was most definitely something that we was glad to get behind us and move forward and leave that in the past.
It's crazy how somebody can take another person's name, likeness, and their life story and make it theirs and make millions along the way. The rapper Rick Ross really committed identity theft right in front of our eyes.
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim. Millions of families suffer every year.
To the real Rick Ross, Freeway Ricky, keep grinding, and those watching, remember that the real Rick Ross is not a rapper.